Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to commence the meeting by declaring the meeting open at 5:30 p.m. as scheduled. We'll go through the opening procedures. First of all, item 2.1, acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Northam acknowledges the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, and embraces the vast Aboriginal cultural diversity throughout Australia. On the land of the Ballagong Noongar and Whadjuk Noongar people where we meet, we acknowledge and pay respect to elders past and present. Item 2.2, recording of council meetings. Members of council and members of the gallery are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and audio recorded and made available on the Shire of Northam's YouTube channel. If members of the public want to access the recording of the meeting, they can do so via the Shire of Northam website. Okay, we'll move on to the attendance. Welcome to the large gallery this evening. I'll move on to item 3.1, the attendees. From my left, the councillors are Councillor Bigelow, Councillor Gerac, Councillor Williams, my name's Councillor Mencheli, Councillor Appleton on my right, Councillor Polton on my right, and Councillor Hughes. In terms of staff, we have the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Terrelink. We have the Executive Manager, Engineering Services, Mr. Devsich. We have the Executive Manager, Development Community Services, Mr. Hunt. We have the Executive Manager, Corporate Services, Mr. Young. Manager, Governance and Risk, Ms. McCall. Governance and Risk Officer, Ms. Blase. Did I mention that correctly? Got it right. Manager Administration Engineering Services, Ms. Van Beek. Now, in terms of apologies, the Shire President, Chris Antonio, is an apology tonight, as is Councillor Ryan. Item 3.3, approved leave of absence, is nil. 3.4, absent is nil, apart from the people that apologise. Okay, we'll go on to disclosure of interest. So far, there has only been one declared, and that's by me. And read that out. It relates to item number 13.3.2, the proposed amendment to P1129 Extractive Industry, Lot 1096 Smith Road, Clackline. I've declared an impartiality interest, and the nature of my interest is that the proponents of this industry are known to me. Okay, we'll move on to announcements by the presiding member. Without discussion, there's a fairly comprehensive list of announcements by the President. Item 6, we'll move to public questions. Are there any public questions from the gallery? This is your opportunity, folks. Everyone's shaking their head. Okay, item number 7, responses to previous public questions taken on notice. There are nil. Item 8, receiving of petitions, presentations and deputations. Petitions, there's nil as far as I can ascertain. Presentations, there's none. And deputations, there are none. Oh, okay. I should have asked, is there anyone in the gallery that wants to do a deputation? No one? Don't be shy. Okay, applications for, item 9, sorry, applications for leave of absence, there are nil. Item number 10, confirmation of minutes. Item 10.1 is confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting held on the 17th of September 2025. As it's a forum meeting tonight, obviously we won't be dealing with those recommendations tonight, but from a council perspective, are there any questions in relation to the recommendation? No? Okay, item 2. Notes from the council forum meeting held on the 8th of October, which is tonight, which we'll traverse next week, so there won't be any questions on that. Item 11, items brought forward from for the convenience of those in the public gallery. Is there anyone here that wants to bring forward an item? Extreme contracting people? Yes? Would you like to? Julie?
That would be wonderful.
Okay, rightio. That's page 25. Sorry? Yeah. It's item 13.3.2. Starts on page 24. It relates to the proposed amendment to P1129, extractive industry, lot 1096 Smith Road, Clackline. Councillors, this is your opportunity to ask any questions if you need, or would you like to read this?
I can give a very brief overview, Chairman. Obviously, it's an application to extend what's been an existing extractive industry for a number of years. The property has obviously changed hands since the initial application. Been operating for a number of years. We've had no reported issues in terms of compliance with any of the existing conditions and previous conditions. The reason it was advertised, we did receive one objection, and in accordance with council delegations, that's why it's been referred to council for a determination. Part of the officer's assessment, they've looked at the objection and believe they can be managed by conditions. As I said before, it's been operating for quite a number of years without any issues being raised with council. Probably one which will clarify for the meeting next week. There is a change in the operating area to what council previously approved, which was advertised. Probably not as clear in the report as it could be, so we'll clarify that for the next meeting. So one of these sand pits is not encroaching, but is further west than what council previously approved. So we'll just clarify that for the full council meeting. But yeah, as I say, it's been advertised. Only one objection was received, and that was based on conditions which we believe, based on issues which we believe can be controlled through conditions of approval.
Yeah, and with those, or the submission that was provided previously when it was first dealt with years ago, is this the same sort of issue?
Correct, yeah.
And that was negated at the time?
Yeah, it's fine. It's been operating for a number of years and no other issues have been raised by any of the public in that area.
All right, councillors, this is your opportunity. Yes, Councillor Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just regarding the objection, I could not find the attached evidence of the objection. Was it a written objection or just verbal?
We can provide a summary of the objection for next week. It's to do with, from memory, potential dust and
Pathogens.
Could be, if it was a written submission, can we have it as an attachment?
Yeah.
Are there any?
Just one little one.
Yes, Councillor Hughes.
The bonds have been returned. Is that because now it's going to be covered, as I understand it, by bank guarantees and?
But that's correct, it can be either. And also, the council, we've now got a policy that requires a road levy contribution. So in the past, that's a relatively new policy in terms of since the extractive ministry wasn't approved previously. So, but yeah, now there's a levy that's paid annually rather than a road maintenance fund, so to speak.
Just about the public liability insurance of not less than $10 million. So that's not up to 20 million.
Yeah, we can clarify that for.
Questions? Councillor Bell?
Estimated lifespan capacity beyond the 12-year or 10-year renewal.
I think in the application, I'm sure it's in the attachment, it's about 15 years resource potentially, depending on obviously rate of structure, etc.
That's right. Are there any other questions in relation to this? Not. Thank you very much, Executive Manager. And we'll move on to the next item. Okay, we'll move on to, anyone who wants to leave can leave. The government their items been addressed. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
And we might see you next week. Okay, moving right on to item 12, reports of committee meetings. There are nil. Moving on to item 13, office reports. 13.1, CEO's office. 13.11, amendment delegated authority. 11.1.1, planning determinations. CEO, willing to speak to that one?
Fairly straightforward, so happy to take any questions that council members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions from councillors or on the table? Oh, Councillor Paul, sorry.
So does this mean that more of these issues aren't going to be presented to council?
What issue? Sorry, can I clarify what issues you're referring to?
So when things in planning and development applications, it's giving our CEO the responsibility of discussing, approving, and etc. For those rather than them coming to council. It seems that the only comes to council with applicants raise an issue.
So that'll be the same case. So if it, say for example with the extractive industry that was just considered, if it doesn't comply with policy or there is a suspicion with the advertising policy, then it would be triggered to come to council in any case. The key changes to this one is around the strata titles and also subdivision referrals, which was covered by the previous delegated authority register. However, was dropped off in, I think, July last year when the new register came into place, which was modelled off the Wildwood template.
Okay. You right? Right, we'll move on to item 13.2, engineering services. There are nil items relating to that at this stage. Item 13.3, development community services. 13.3.1, naming of proposed roads. Development Plan 122617, 186 Chitty Road, Bakers Hill. I take it everyone's had a good look at that particular recommendation. Are there any questions, or Mr. Hunt, do you want to provide a briefing on that?
Yeah, and again, it's a fairly standard process where the board can nominate road names for the new subdivision, and then it's up to council whether they board or not, and then we basically, it does go through what they call the Geographic Names Committee, planning lands and heritage. They have certain criteria they must meet, and it does meet that criteria as well.
So at this stage, I wouldn't knock back the
There would be
recommendation.
no reason for it not to be supported.
Thank you very much. Any questions from councillors around the table? Councillor Foy?
Retreat. Going to become Fairy Red Retreat Street.
Would be Fairy Wren Retreat, the name, the nomenclature for the street, yeah, so.
Fairy Red Retreat Street.
Very, it's very important.
Okay, everyone happy with that? No further questions? Oh, sorry, councillor Bigelow.
How big is the subdivision? It's only 2 roads, isn't it? Or is this an existing subdivision?
No, it's only a relatively small subdivision, only 2 roads as you mentioned. I think from memory, and I'll be corrected, there's probably about 15 to 16 lots potentially. Yeah, so,
Oh, my apologies. It's okay, thank you. I do remember saying that, my apologies.
I might just clarify, just in terms of the Fairy Red retreat is actually instead of street. So, yeah, it won't be Fairy Red Retreat Street, it'll be Fairy Red Retreat and Sickle Grove.
Sickle Grove, that's right.
We have flash street names now.
Yeah, I've just got one question to the executive manager. There's quite a few angular lots in this subdivision. Is that normal procedure, or is it just the nature of the original title?
yeah, I think there's a number of existing structures on the site. A little bit, I guess, a bit of an anomaly, so to speak, but yeah, there's a couple of existing houses, and then there's also some dams and other structures on them. And remnant vegetation as well, which they're trying to work around.
Right. Yeah, okay. All right. Yes, councillor Bigelow. Oh no, sorry, councillor Durack. I've got your hand with that.
That was the, I'm just looking at the map on page 33, just a clarification. Looks like that arrow not going to the next road. So is it a dead end street? That was Fairy Run Retreat on page 23.
Talking about the emergency access on the wall.
Yes, it's going into an emergency exit, and there doesn't seem to be an exit from there.
Yeah, so that's proposed for an emergency exit, and if that the adjoining land does get subdivided, that road will then get potentially continued through to Augustini Road.
Okay. So this block in the middle here cannot be, is it, that's part of the subdivision?
Where the
This one?
16 is, correct?
So it hasn't got any access then, not to look at it, unless there is another road, but.
So that lot 261 is not included in the subdivision application, so the
Yes.
subdivider is having to negotiate putting that emergency access way through the adjoining property.
So this lot 16 is not part of.
Lot 16 is?
Yes, but it, okay, but it hasn't got a road access.
It's got,
Emergency.
it'll have an easement, so it'll have.
At the end of the road.
It's at the end of the road at the moment, yeah.
That finer detail will be worked out when they split their plans and things like that.
Yeah, okay. Right,
So,
have you got a question?
I do now.
Councillor Bigelow?
Could you not, looking at the satellite map of it, not necessarily this one, having a look on a satellite map, 186 seems to be at the back of Kitty Road, like it seems to be a fair way back. Is the driveway pretty long? Because Augustine is the road that we're currently going to have those sheep at. Is that going to have potentially down the track have more traffic on it coming out onto Great Eastern Highway, or is the intent to be purely Kitty Road access?
We'll have to take that question on notice if there is an overall structures plan for the area, but if the land adjoining, as I've mentioned, does get subdivided, then there is potential for Augustine to become, I guess, a more busy road than what it is at the moment, obviously the cul-de-sac, so to speak. So,
Egress, what egress, however you want to say it, on and off of Great Eastern Highway is poor.
yeah, so that would be something that would need to be considered even when a subdivision application for the adjoining properties came in.
Because there's refractory road too, there's like a road down in refractory that you could possibly come off as well. Anyway, that's for you guys all.
So is there a question on this?
Oh, I guess the question was, is there an overall structure plan for the area?
Right. Okay. Mr. Councillor Appleton?
With the emergency access easement, will this be maintained by the people running these lots, or will this become something that Shire does and turn into a pedestrian access way in the future?
I was waiting for that.
I believe the condition of approval would normally, emergency access way would be required with an easement, similar to what we're looking at for the Moravillo estate, and that would be then the responsibility of the Shire to maintain.
Does that answer your question?
So, Mr. President, I have one more question.
You got one more question?
I will. Will this be advertised down the track to the neighbouring people to consider what places?
In terms of the road names,
No, but just the general.
the subdivision has been approved, etc. So, I know it would be advertised.
Right. Move on to item 13.4, corporate services. 13.4.1, Northern Recreation Facilities Development. The reporting officer here is the Executive Manager of Corporate Services, Mr. Young, and he's already moved up to the seat very quickly. Thank you. Did you want to give us a briefing on that, please?
Yes, I'll give you a very quick brief. We also have down here the author of the report, so if you have any questions for that change, happy to answer them. The Northern Recreation Facilities Development Plan has been, during the development of it, we've consulted with community groups, we've consulted with sport groups, we've already worked on councils once before this agenda has been presented, and we've also given council an opportunity for feedback via our VIVA, our council information. So I think the idea with the plan is basically to guide council over the next 10 years. The previous plan has exhausted itself. It's about 10 years old, and the majority of the actions were carried out. I don't really have too much else to say. Like I say, we have been all through it. The pages 39 to 47 are probably the most important pages, because that is the priority actions, the years we're going to do them, and we have a look at that and they wish to suggest that something moved around and debate them. So I'll probably open it up if anyone has any questions, they could probably direct them to Shane if he doesn't mind.
Councillors, questions? Councillor Bigland.
Is there any reason it's called the Northern Recreational Facilities Development Plan and not the Shire of Northern's Recreational Facilities Development Plan?
None whatsoever will have that changed.
It just encompasses the broader spectrum. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Hayden, Appleton.
When it refers to the Northern Lawn Tennis Club, does that refer to the country club? Follow-up question. We've had the country club come to us in the past about having their grass tennis sports reverted to turf, and we refused it because they are primarily a private company. I'm just wondering how this has come into the Shire of Northern's development plan.
Through the chair, I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, my discussions with both the now Department of Cultural Industry, Tourism and Sport, they've indicated that the country club, tennis club, have amended the amended constitution, which has met the land arrangements apparently now meet the requirements. The sticking point has been historically that government obviously is the wish to invest in private land. I believe the change is in the circumstance where the club continues its operations, that its existing funds, if you like, and assets would be returned to the Shire, thereby remaining in the hands. The second point is that it's included in this plan on the basis that the Shire has a lack of available courts, tennis courts or hard courts generally, for people to access on a casual basis without being a member of a club, for example. That's obviously limited at the moment in relation to management of turf, so on and so forth. The other point being made, and it's made quite specifically in the plan, is that the funding model doesn't include any funding from the Shire in relation to that project. The funding is based, or the model is based on, as part of seeking funding through various government funding avenues, and then need to balance themselves. Answer the question.
With a follow-up question, as part of this, will not necessarily the Shire, but the community have greater access to that facility without necessarily being members of the country club or paying into their club?
I think that's a discussion between council and the club. Certainly, in the conversations I've had with them, there is a desire to do that.
Down the rec centre on the outdoor courts, is there a facility there for tennis courts? I know there's supposed to be, because when they closed down the hard courts in Northern, I know got a little bit heated at the time. That was all going up there where people had to be a member of the club. They then made it down the rec centre, they were going to have the outdoor, we could have tennis courts with the play basketball or netball. Basketball.
Sorry, they do have tennis courts on the outside courts of the rec centre. They're not heavily used, but they are available there and they are lined. There's basketball, netball and tennis lined on the outdoor courts.
So they could be used.
Could be utilised, could be utilised.
Any further questions from councillors? Councillor Crowe.
Life plans and funding for the start seeing anything in here for we don't know whether it's the
Stage we don't have any life plans for that. It wasn't soon for it, probably last life expectancy, I believe, is about 50 years.
so we're not putting money aside for 50.
Not at this point, but if the council wants to start providing money for annual life plans for buildings and other infrastructure, that would be quite welcome to adopt that in the next budget.
Yes, I'd also comment that I think that particularly the rec centre would have been picked up as part of the building asset pickup that we've just done. So that will provide an indication of what maintenance and renewal will need to be done to the facility over time as well, so that we can maintain the life of the asset as long as possible.
Yes, councillor Duran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just looking at the budget, and the estimate is about $10 million for all the work that needs to be done. So I divided that by $10 million a year. Can we afford that?
Oh, sorry, I was going to also
I know
say.
half of that would be external funding.
That's right, yes,
But
that's
even
correct.
the other half is $500,000 just for that, for the maintenance of recreational facilities. So I'm concerned with that condition.
The budget as presented has 4.2 million of council funds over their 10 years. You remember that it is a plan, it is subject to budget approval and to available resources.
So my follow-up question, if we don't stick by this plan, obviously our assets will be deteriorating, and then in the next 10 years, the more resources will need to be put into to keep up the facilities. I'm just a bit concerned about how we can manage it, because our prices are going up, so this is an estimate. And by the time we get to year 5 or year 8, the budget very well can blow up to 15 million. The ratings going nowadays. So I'm just if there is any contingency, I know that time.
Well, obviously, I mean, this will inform our reserves that we will need as well, and also our long-term financial planning and budgeting. As Mr. Young has said, it is a plan, but if we don't have a plan, the risk is that we, could be developing other facilities without understanding what we currently have and what we need to continue maintaining and providing for the community. So it is certainly a way to ensure that we are investing in those facilities, or at least exploring the needs and feasibility as well for new facilities in a way that supports how council will need to budget in future. And at this point in time, I guess it's better to have a plan than not have a plan. But it does create an expectation, and as much as possible in the report we've tried to manage that expectation by saying that the only funding that's locked in at this stage is 25-26. Obviously, as we do our long-term financial plan and review our long-term financial plan and do our annual budget, that's when we will consider what's in the plan each year.
Thanks for that. Supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Can we just have some kind of comparison how much we're spending currently, like let's say the past 5 years on the maintenance of the recreational facilities? Is this kind of in alignment with $500,000 figure?
Yes, I certainly believe it was the last relaxed recreation facilities plan that we had 10 million expenditure over the 10 years, so it had slightly greater. I also note that this plan, a lot of the expenditure is actually for renewal of current council buildings, so it's not all new. It also includes a renewal of existing assets, which council is going to have to fund regardless of whether we have to keep the assets in good condition.
Further questions? Councillor Hughes?
It's not quite with this subject, but going with what I had mentioned before about the net out, the wall, tennis courts, do they have nets down at the rec centre? If anyone wanted to play tennis?
Portable.
Eh?
Portable nets.
You got
So they're not fixed nets, they're
Oh, right.
portable nets.
All right. Yep, but
You? Any further questions, councillors? There's not. Recommendation there on page 168 that we can deliberate on next week. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. The next item is 13.4.2, accounts and statements of statement of accounts for September 2025. Do we have any? Oh, did you want to speak to that, Deputy Manager?
And the council, if there's any questions on that,
Yeah.
I can, but I have no
query at this stage. Councillors, have you got any questions at this point in time?
No.
You send them in due course. Okay, thank you very much for that. Move on to the next item. That's a recommendation on page 330 for that one, but deliberate on that next week. Right. Move on to item 13.4.3, financial statements for the period ending the 30th of September 2025. Are there any queries from councillors in relation to the report there? Yeah, I'm not Councillor Antonio, so I haven't got any questions at this stage. I've been through it all and I'm quite happy with it. Councillor Durack.
Just one question, you might be able to being asset disposal on page 380. So on the asset disposal, it's the profit and loss on asset disposal is over budget by 1,861% on the year to date. Is that helpful or is that correct?
Yeah, that's directly related to the disposal of the Shire Depot and the early disposal of the Girl 12, which is put the over year to date spending. So it was just we had the projects budgeted for later in the year for the money to come through and the money's worth hit the bank and the profit between their two assets.
Any further questions on that particular item? No, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, we'll move into item 14, which is matters behind closed doors. We need to move behind closed doors. Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Hughes with you. All in favour? Carried. Okay, we can just
Or just make it up earlier.
Done, right, okay, well, I'll move on with the rest of the,
I've got the camera.
okay. We've moved out from behind closed doors now, and everyone's back in the room. We'll move on to item 15, motions of which previous notice has been given. There's nil. Item 16, urgent business approved by decision. There's nil. Declaration of closure, item 17, 6:23 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone, for your indulgence.